procedures under customs. First I am starting with import procedures here. So these import procedures are, there are multiple modes of imports. So that can be by vessel, that can be by aircraft, or that can be by vehicle. First we are discussing import procedure from the context of a vessel. So first step is that the person who is located outside India will place an order with the exporter. So therefore the importer will place an order with the exporter, and the exporter will be handing over the goods to the shipping company. Now the shipping company will be giving a document of title known as bill of lading, and that bill of lading will be sent by the exporter, that is the shipping company will be giving it to the exporter, exporter will be sending it to the importer. So that is the third step. Now what will happen, this bill of lading is a document of title to claim the ownership of the goods, and parallelly the shipping company will be bringing the vessel to India, and they will be filing a document called as import manifest. The document name is import manifest. So they will be filing the document, and when the document is filed, the customs officer will be granting entry in words. So in the document import manifest, they need to specify what are the goods which are present in that vessel. Okay, what are the goods which are present in that vessel should be mentioned in that import manifest. So once it is mentioned in that import manifest, then that particular customs officer will check whether these goods are allowed to be imported or not, and then the customs officer will grant entry inwards. Then only the vessel can enter into India, and then these goods are unloaded under the custody of a custodian. So that custodian is a officer of the port trust authorities. So that goods will be unloaded under the control of a custodian. So now the goods are with custodian, so that is port trust authorities. Then parallelly what will happen, that importer will be filing a document called as bill of entry. That bill of entry contains the details of the goods, what is the value of the goods, from where it is imported. All those details will be there in that bill of entry, which will be filed by the importer with the customs officer. So that is point number 7. So when bill of entry is filed, and if the bill of entry is complete in all aspects, so immediately the importer has to make the payment of customs duty after acknowledgement of the bill of entry. And once the customs duty is paid, thereafter customs officer will pass out of customs charge order, which means that the goods can be taken for clearance. That is the meaning of out of customs charge order. So that is step number 8. Now importer is having two orders. Number 1, he is having bill of lading, and that bill of lading he will be submitting with the port trust authorities, and he will be that bill of lading will be submitted with the shipping company, and he will be getting delivery order. Now the delivery order and out of customs charge order he will submit with the port trust authorities, and they will be releasing the goods. So this DO, delivery order, is to be obtained from the shipping company. So this is the procedure involved with respect to import of goods by vessel. If it is aircraft, what will happen? What will be the change? That bill of lading will be called as airway bill. The bill of lading is there, na? That will be called as airway bill. If it is vehicle, the document will be called as either lorry receipt or railway receipt, etc. And this is the change in the document of title, and remaining is same. Thereafter bill of entry only in case of aircraft or vehicle, and then in case of person in charge, the person in charge will change. If it is aircraft, pilot will be the person in charge, and the document that the pilot will be filing is known as arrival manifest. And if it is vehicle, the guard or the conductor, they will be filing import report. So the document which will be filed with by the person in charge at the time of bringing the goods into India is known as, or the document that contains the details of the goods in the conveyance is known as import manifest, arrival manifest, or import report. And in case of aircraft and vehicle, grant of entry inwards is not given for entering, because the aircraft or vehicle can enter, but to unload the goods, grant of entry inwards will be given. So that's a slight change. And thereafter the remaining points about delivery order, out of customs charge order, all those will be same. So therefore, if you see what are the compliance to be followed by the person in charge. So who is person in charge? Depends. Master of the vessel in case of vessel, and in case of aircraft, pilot, and in case of vehicle it is driver. And what is the place of arrival? Where should they come? they should come only at the approved place, that is customs port or customs airport, and in case of vehicle it is land customs station. Then they need to file import manifest, arrival manifest or import report. Already I told you, if it is vessel then import manifest, if it is aircraft arrival manifest, and if it is vehicle import report. And when they need to file, so they need to file, if it is vessel the import manifest needs to be filed, so at any time prior to the arrival of the vessel, at any time prior to the arrival of the vessel they need to file what import manifest or arrival manifest, also to be filed at any time prior to the arrival of the aircraft. Whereas in case of vehicle they can file it within 12 hours after arrival, but within 12 hours. So who should be filing this document? Person in charge should be filing. And whether it is electronic or manual, arrival manifest and import manifest will be electronic, whereas vehicle import report will be manual. Okay, and in case where officer permits, then it can be presented manual also, wherever that is IM and AM, that is electronic basically, but say sometimes which is not able to practically possible, then officer may permit them to file it manually. That provision is there. And what is the time limit for filing? If it is arrival manifest or import manifest or arrival manifest before arrival, and import report within 12 hours after arrival. And if there is any delay in filing, if there is any belated filing, then the penalty will be up to 50,000 rupees. So that is the penalty for belated filing. This is with respect to this. Then next. So they need to file a passenger name record information along with import manifest, arrival manifest or import report. So who that particular person in charge should be filing passenger name record information. And in case of imports by vessel, goods can be unloaded only after obtaining grant of entry inwards. I discussed already that point with you. And in case of aircraft and vehicle, so the goods can be like entering, but it can be unloaded only after grant of entry inwards. Okay, and goods go into the custody of the custodian, and custodian shall ensure safe custody. And there is one point here. There is something called as pilferage. Pilferage means petty theft. In case of any petty theft, that is pilferage, importer is not required to pay customs duty, whereas the person under whose control the goods are, that is custodian, is required to pay customs duty with respect to those goods which were lost in the customs place. Okay, the custodian has to pay the customs duty, but not the importer. That we will be learning in exemption section 13. And thereafter, goods specified in import manifest, arrival manifest or import report should only be unloaded. Other goods should not be unloaded. If any goods are unloaded which is not specified in this manifest or report, then it amounts to illegal imports, that is like smuggling. Then goods should be unloaded only at the approved place, and it should be unloaded under the supervision of the proper officer. That is under customs officer supervision it should be unloaded, and the goods go into the control of the custodian. And generally there is something called as boat note. That is, whenever the goods are coming in a big vessel and it cannot reach the shore, so then from ship to the shore they will be transporting the goods in small boats. So that is known as like that boats usually we discuss that as lighterage and barge charges. So from ship to the shore, when the goods are coming in small boats, so these small boats should definitely carry a boat note, because otherwise these goods are assumed to be illegally imported goods by the coastal guard and they may seize those goods. So due to that reason it should accompany a boat note, and that boat note will be given by the customs officer to the person in charge. Okay, that is about section 35. Thereafter, if unloading is on holidays or after office hours, then merchant overtime charges shall be paid, MOT charges. So these MOT charges are payable to the customs whenever the clearances are after office hours. So these are the compliances to be followed by the person in charge in case of import. Now what we are discussing is what is the compliance to be followed by the importer in case of import of goods. So they need to file a bill of entry here. This bill of entry is a document that contains the details of the value of the goods, description of the goods, and customs duty payable, etc. detail. These bill of entries are of three types. Number one, bill of entry for home consumption, bill of entry for warehousing, and ex-bond bill of entry. So bill of entry for home consumption is like once you are for presenting that bill of entry, once the goods are unloaded, you are taking it to your place. That is bill of entry for home consumption. Bill of entry for warehousing means you will deposit those goods in the warehouse without payment of customs duty, and at a later point of time you will clear it from the warehouse upon payment of customs duty. Already we know that for depositing we need in bond or bill of entry for warehousing. For clearance from the warehouse we need ex bond bill of entry. Then what is the time limit within which it should be presented? The importer shall present the bill of entry either for home consumption or for warehousing before the end of the next day. So try to remember it as one working day. So that is, once the goods are arrived, that is the vessel has arrived or the aircraft has arrived or the vehicle has arrived, within one working day after arrival, it should be filed. What will happen if the bill of entry is not filed within one working day after arrival? Then there is a penalty, that is in the form of late fee. What is that late fee? If the delay is up to 3 days, the late fee will be 5,000 rupees per day. If the delay is beyond 3 days, the late fee will be 10,000 rupees per day. Which means that if the delay is for 5 days, for the first 3 days, it will be 5 into 3, 15,000. Next 2 days, it will be 2 into 10, 20,000. So therefore, 35,000 rupees will be the late fee in case of delay in filing bill of entry. Okay. Can a bill of entry be filed prior? Yes. A prior bill of entry can be filed, but that prior bill of entry should be filed within 30 days prior to the expected date of arrival of the vessel or aircraft. Suppose if a prior bill of entry is filed within 30 days, the vessel or aircraft did not come, then that prior bill of entry will be lapsed. Okay. And Finance Act 2021 has brought in a mandatory prior bill of entry, but that is not applicable for your exam, May 21 exam, don't worry. So that is for May 22 exam only. So for your exam it is not applicable. For your exam we have a prior bill of entry as well as a later bill of entry. Okay, later bill of entry within one working day and prior bill of entry within 30 days prior. So within 30 days we file a bill of entry. Within 30 days from that bill of entry, if the vessel or aircraft is not arriving, that bill of entry will be lapsed, and again we need to file a fresh bill of entry. Okay, and that fresh bill of entry will be counted as a bill of entry for all provisions of this law. Then next year, say this: pay customs duty after filing bill of entry for home consumption, and we need to do the assessment, and once that is done, they will be passing a out of customs charge order. If the goods are not cleared for home consumption or for warehousing within 30 days after unloading, what is that it means? See, once the goods are unloaded within 30 days from that date, either we need to clear it for home consumption or we need to clear it for warehousing. If we are not doing both, that is either cleared for home consumption, we are not clearing for home consumption, or we are not clearing it for warehousing, in that case what will happen? Until that point of time the goods will be under the control of a custodian. Now customs officer has two options. They can permit the goods to be warehoused, so they can take the goods and they can keep the goods in the warehouse, but this warehousing is not done by the importer, this warehousing is done by the customs officer. Or if considering the nature of the goods or value of the goods, they may even dispose it off. Okay, so 30 days after unloading it will be under the control of custodian. Thereafter either they may take it to a warehouse, that is officer, customs officer may take it to a warehouse or may dispose it off. If at all they keep it in the warehouse, they can keep it for a period of 30 days, and thereafter for every 30 days they need to take approval from the commissioner. Only when commissioner approves, so that can be extended for every 30 days at a time. Okay, then this is about, so far what we have discussed is about import procedures. Now we are looking into export procedures here. Export procedures. See, export procedures is very simple, not that complicated like import procedures. So in case of export procedures, first it starts with the exporter who is located in India. A person who is located in India will be handing over the shipping bill to the customs officer. Customs officer will check that shipping bill. In case of vessel and aircraft, the document name is shipping bill here. In case of vehicle, the document name is bill of export. So when it is submitted with the customs officer will check whether these goods are prohibited goods or these goods are restricted goods or freely allowed. So whatever it is, so they will, suppose if they are required to collect any customs duty, so they will pass a let export order, okay, accordingly. So which means if it is prohibited, they will not pass let export order, otherwise they will pass a let export order, and after passing let export order, the exporter should pay the customs duty and hand over the shipping bill and the goods to the person in charge of the conveyance. What that person in charge of the conveyance will do? So would have got grant of entry outwards, because if they load the goods into the ship and thereafter if they are not getting grant of entry outwards, again they need to unload. So due to that reason, so they will be getting a grant of entry outwards. First they will get a grant of entry outwards and then the goods will be loaded into the vessel, okay, and then whatever the goods that are loaded into the vessel, they will be submitting, a document called as export manifest. In case of import it is import manifest, in case of export it is known as export manifest, and in case of import it is arrival manifest, in case of export it is departure manifest, in case of import it is import report, here it is export report. So that will be the document which will be filed. And after filing this document, what are the compliance to be followed by the person in charge? Loading of goods only at the approved place. Yes, only at the approved place goods can be loaded, and loading only under the supervision of proper officer. So loading of goods only at the approved place. So there unloading only at the approved place, here loading at the approved place, and there goods can be unloaded under the supervision of proper officer, here goods can be loaded under the supervision of proper officer, just contra. Then loading with the help of small boats possible, but generally that do not require a boat knot. Why do not require a boat knot? When we are taking the goods from the shore to the ship, so that goods already accompanies a shipping bill, so therefore no need of any separate boat knot in that case. Then loading on holidays and after office hours, subject to payment of charges called as merchant overtime charges, and the person in charge shall obtain grant of entry outwards from the customs officer before loading of the goods. And this document already we have seen: export manifest, departure manifest, and export report. Who will be filing export manifest? In case of vessel, and in case of aircraft, departure manifest. In case of vehicle, it is export report. And at the time of import also, they will be submitting a passenger name record information at the time of export also, because in that cargo ship or cargo vessel, there may be some people who may be traveling also as passengers. So their details also should be submitted as a matter of security. And then should obtain permission to leave India from the customs officer, and only then they can leave, otherwise they cannot leave, okay. Then complaints to be followed by the exporter. Simple exporter will be filing a document called as bill of export in case of vehicle, and shipping bill in case of aircraft and vessel. So whenever they file, that will be electronic mode, and customs officer shall assess the value and customs duty payable, or that is either it's like either the importer or exporter can do the self assessment, section 17. If they are unable to compute the value, or because of other reasons, the provisional assessment can be resorted under section 18. So either self assessment or provisional assessment in case of both import and export, okay. We are discussing it in the context of export, it does not mean it is not applicable for import. Even for import also it will be applicable. And shall pay the applicable customs duty if applicable immediately on filing shipping bill, and the let export order will be passed. So this is about the import procedure and the export procedure. So this will be useful only for MCQ purpose, but not for any descriptive question or any practical question. Thereafter, we have the concept of transit and transshipment. Sir, should we remember the section numbers in the procedures? Not required. So just the procedure that you remember, that is sufficient. Whereas, this valuation and all, up to there you need to remember the section numbers under customs. And then transit and transshipment. What is this transit and transshipment of goods? Like there is a vessel which is carrying the goods. There is a vessel which is carrying some goods. So that vessel is coming to India, and some goods are unloaded in India. Remaining goods are taken to a place, remaining goods are taken to some other place. First a vessel came to India and some goods are unloaded, and that vessel is carrying the remaining goods to some other place in India. Now these goods are called as goods in transit if the same conveyance which has first brought the goods is taking the goods to the different location. Suppose if it is in a different vessel, that is, first a vessel came, some goods are unloaded, and in a different vessel if the goods are taken, those goods are said to be in transshipment. In case of transit, so as the same conveyance is taking, there is no need of any new documentation, whereas in case of transshipment, a new documentation is required, that is known as bill of transshipment or declaration of transshipment. Okay, now see this. Section 53 plus 55, 54 plus 55, conveyance. Transit means continuing transport of goods in the same conveyance. Same conveyance is transit. Whereas transshipment means continuing transport of goods in any other conveyance. Continuing transport of goods in any other conveyance is known as transshipment. And then bill or declaration. No bill or declaration is required to be filed for transit of goods, whereas for transshipment that requires a bill of transshipment or a declaration of transshipment. Then continuity in the records. So in case of transit, so that goods are continuing in the records, whereas in case of transshipment, continuity in the records is not maintained because it goes into a different ship due to that reason. And in the first port or airport, so they will be filing the details of normal cargo as well as transit cargo or transshipment cargo. Whereas in the subsequent port or airport, again an import manifest or import report or arrival manifest needs to be filed. Okay. Then in case of import or export by post, that is, goods can be imported or exported by post or even courier, and in that case what will be taken as the relevant date for determination of rate of duty? The general rate determination, that is date of presentation of bill of entry or grant of entry inwards, is not applicable in case of import or export by post. So what is that we need to do? So first of all, what will happen in case of import by post? So that person like postal authorities will be handing over the document containing the details of the goods to proper officer under customs. So first the goods are imported in the form of post parcel, and that goods will come into the post parcels and it will be unloaded in the port or airport. Then the post parcels will contain a document, like a document or a list containing articles, and that details, that is that list, will be handed over by the postal authorities to the proper officer. In case of courier, that authority will be called as courier agency. Okay, only difference is that authority will be called as courier agency. In case of normal, it will be postal authorities, that is import or export by post, postal authorities, and in case of courier it will be courier agency. So they will be handing over that parcel list to the proper officer. Now proper officer will check what are the dutiable goods and exempted goods that will be segregated. Dutiable goods means they will pay customs duty and they will be recovering it from the person to whom they are delivering the parcel. Okay. So now in this case, what should be taken as the relevant date for determination of rate of duty? If it is vessel, postal articles or courier articles imported by vessel, the date when that postal authority present the parcel list to the proper officer or date of arrival of the vessel, whichever is later. Okay. If it is aircraft or vehicle, the date when the parcel list is submitted to the postal authorities, on that date, whatever is the rate that should be taken. Okay, you have to remember this. Maybe a question can be framed on this. Whereas in case of exports, postal exports, in case of postal exports, the day when we hand over the parcel, to the postal authority or the courier agency, that will be taken as the relevant date for determination of rate of duty. Okay, in case of exports by post or courier. Done. Then next, so see this note, payment, that is goods imported or exported through courier are treated on par with goods imported or exported by post. Only difference is what postal authorities will be replaced with courier agency. Then payment of customs duty through electronic cash ledger or electronic credit ledger. So this is a latest amendment here applicable for May 21 exam in customs. That is, we have the concept of cash ledger and credit ledger even under customs, brought under customs as per section 51A and 51B. So what is this electronic cash ledger? Generally, whenever we need to pay customs duty, what we will do? We will log in into the portal called as ICE Gate portal and we will make the payment of customs duty. But now what they are telling is like cash ledger. So whenever you want to make payment of customs duty, you deposit into the cash ledger. Because sometimes what will happen, there will be some reassessment that will be done. So when we do an assessment, self-assessment, we file the bill of entry, they will be doing a reassessment. When they do a reassessment, in that case, some extra amount of tax may arise. Like we file a bill of entry by assessing some value and some tax. But when they do the reassessment, some extra amount is payable. For that payment of extra amount, again we used to make the payment. There was some delay, etc. and all. To avoid this kind of situations, what they are telling, you make deposit into the cash ledger. So whenever the duty liability arises, we will make a debit from the cash ledger. Simple. Okay. Amount deposited for duty payment is credited to this ledger. Balance in this ledger can be used for payment of customs duty, interest, penalty. For anything we can use it. And can we get the unutilized balance as a refund? Yes. Just like your cash ledger under GST, same concept. Then electronic credit ledger. So this electronic credit ledger is generally refunds under customs like duty drawback or various incentives under foreign trade policy like MEIS, SEIS. All these benefits will be now credited into the electronic credit ledger. For example, you take duty drawback. When we are importing some goods, upon payment of customs duty, when we export those goods, whatever customs duty we paid on import, a percentage we will get as a refund. Previously, that refund used to come into our bank account. But now, what they are doing, they are putting it into the electronic credit ledger, duty credit ledger, which can be used only for payment of customs duty on import. Okay, on import, if there are any customs duty payable, for that we can use. Refund payable upon export or incentives under FTP are credited to this ledger. Balance in this ledger can be used only for payment of customs duty, nothing else. We cannot use it for payment of penalty and interest. So this is same as the one what we have even in like GST, input tax credit ledger, electronic credit ledger, GST, whatever we have, the same logic. And unutilized balance cannot be claimed as refund, means we can carry forward and we can use it for payment of customs duty on import. Maybe it can be transferred, but we don't have any provisions related to that. Maybe it may come in future. So right now, this much information, if you remember, that is sufficient for electronic cash ledger and credit ledger under section 51A and 51B. It can be asked as a short note question. Then we have something called as faceless assessment under customs. So this is also one of the amendment. This is also one of the amendment under customs for your May 21 exam, that is faceless assessment. What is this faceless assessment? Previously, we used to file a bill of entry and that will go to the jurisdictional customs officer. The jurisdictional customs officer will be checking the accuracy of that particular accuracy of that bill of entry, and if there is any discrepancies, so that will be communicated to that person and that person needs to rectify those discrepancies. So this is how this is the background of this. So now what happens here, there is an importer. That particular importer will be filing a PDF, that is bill of entry with the ICE gate, uploading the bill of entry with the ICE gate. Once it is uploaded in the ICE gate, what will happen? So that that bill of entry will be forwarded to the customs officer, but the customs officer can be anywhere. That customs officer can be anywhere in the country. So need not be jurisdictional customs officer. So that risk management system RMS will allot it to one customs officer in any place. So there are a lot of customs ports and airports wherein the officers are idle. So to them they will be delegating the work. So they will complete the customs compliance verification and will give the report. If they give the report, which means that the bill of entry is complete in all aspects. Otherwise, they will reject the bill of entry by specifying the reason, and we need to rectify that, and again we need to submit the bill of entry. Okay, so that is this particular concept called as faceless assessment. So this is the start, but we don't know what will happen in the future with respect to all other aspects. So right now the filing of bill of entry is now made this way, wherein bill of entry will not be going to the jurisdictional officer alone, it may be given to any officer for customs compliance verification. Okay, so that is this. So these are the various procedures that we have in the context of customs, import and export procedures and the other aspects.